Now we're thrilled to have Alexandra Park joining us as our closing keynote speaker. Alexandra Park is an Australian actor, producer, and writer. Her credits include the critically acclaimed Ben is Back, directed by Peter Hedges, a leading role in the Lionsgate's The Royals, and the independent TV series Everyone is Doing Great, where she served as star, producer, and screenwriter. In 2021, Alex's literary debut, Sugar High, a comedic memoir, became a bestseller. We're really pleased to share this time with Alex. Alex, please take it away.
Hi guys. Thank you so much for that introduction. Hi, it's a real honor to be here today. As Faith said, I'm Alex Park. I'm an actor, writer, and producer. I was diagnosed with type 1 11 years ago, 3 months before I was set to move to Hollywood to follow my dreams of becoming an actor. My diagnosis was clunky. I was far too busy and excited and determined to worry about the symptoms I was experiencing. I was burning the candle at both ends, and I was working 2 jobs at the time as a retail assistant and as a guest actor on the Australian soap opera Home and Away. I wasn't feeling great though, so I went to see a couple of general practitioners and relayed the standard symptoms of excessive thirst and hunger, weight loss, exhaustion, acne, etc. And I was turned away both times, hearing exactly what I wanted to hear, that I was simply run down and there was nothing to worry about. My glorious mother intervened shortly thereafter when I told her that I was struggling to read street signs while driving, and that a couple of friends had asked if I was bulimic because I was eating excessively but skinny as a rail. So after taking blood and urine, something that neither doctor previous had thought to do, my family doctor arrived at 6 a.m. the next morning in her dressing gown on my mother's doorstep with the results, and I had an extremely high blood glucose reading, a number so high that she'd never seen in a patient that hadn't yet been hospitalized, hence the dressing gown and her slippers, God bless her. So I had absolutely no interest being associated with type 1 diabetes. I remember telling the doctors to hold on to her sad pamphlets and to just give me the drugs and let me go. I don't know if it was because the only image that I had to go with the word diabetes came from movies that I'd seen, where the characters were with diabetes were depicted as outsiders, as no-hopers or sickly or sad, or if it's because I'd been conditioned to dismiss anything that could get in the way of my following my dreams of being an actor, or if it was because I'd never felt so deeply alone and confused. But one thing I know for sure was that I was angry. I was so angry that I now had this weakness, as I saw it, that I had to carry around with me and hide from the world for the rest of my life. I was so angry that I was actually in complete denial about the whole thing. So in spite of the doctor's firm advice to postpone my trip to Hollywood, off I went without delay and without anyone to remind me that my attention now had to be shared with this thing called diabetes. There wasn't a chance in hell I was changing my plans. So a few weeks after I arrived in Los Angeles, I somehow managed to book the role of a lifetime, playing Princess Eleanor on The Royals, which was a very welcome shock to my already very shocked system. And a few days later, I arrived in London ready to shoot the pilot with even less time to think about diabetes. I had 8-inch costume heels to learn how to walk in. So there was no time for diabetes. At first, over in London, I got very good at playing the hero, at fobbing off my mealtime shots as no big thing and telling anybody who asked that while technically the shots were for type 1 diabetes, that I was different, I was better than it. It wasn't going to beat me or even slow me down. Shortly thereafter, I became unknowingly obsessed with correctional insulin as a means to feed my developing illusion of perfection. I would check my blood sugars every 15 minutes, giving myself insulin before the previous shot had even had a chance to work. Severe hypoglycemia became my normal. So white as a ghost and shaking, disorientated as medics would fly in, interrupting scenes with cranes in place on top of film crews of 100 people, in press conferences, in costume fittings, when I was sleeping, in airports, anywhere, you name it, I was on the brink of unconsciousness every single day. So after about 5 years of experiencing these severe and frequent hypoglycemic attacks as a result of believing that diabetes was a weakness, I finally woke up. I hit rock bottom and I fell unconscious in front of my mum and my now husband and my dog, who apparently did very little. But my mum and husband somehow managed to save my life. And this woke me up. I realized then and there that there was no way I was going to be able to continue my career as an actor, as a performer, if I was going to be managing my diabetes the way that I had been. So it was a pretty shitty way to get the perspective that I so desperately needed, but I'm incredibly grateful that that day happened, because it allowed me to finally see what I'd been putting myself through. And more than that, it inspired me to figure out why this had all happened. I started to wonder how I might have reacted to my diagnosis had I not been made to feel like I'd suddenly gone from a whole and actual person to a tainted, discredited one, like an instant deviation from what society deems as normal. It occurred to me that type 1 diabetes and mental health is hardly ever mentioned in the media. There is an undeniable connection between the two, and yet this is largely ignored. So if a person, particularly a child or an adolescent, is struggling with stigma-based mental health issues, it seems inevitable that their diabetes control will be far from optimal. So I started paying attention to the ignorant and often highly inaccurate representation of both type 1 and type 2 diabetes in the media, specifically television and film, how the condition is often used as a quick punchline or as some kind of a foil to trip up the characters, or how on the off chance that diabetes is used as more than just a quick punchline, it's almost always via characters that are written as on the outside of normal. Losers, hapless victims that are destined to fail. And, you know, I started to wonder what kind of harm this very unenlightened depiction would likely be having on people. Now, these portrayals, they matter not only to individuals living with the condition, but because movies and media have the power to shape public attitudes, reactions, and actions. Movies and media can inform how people understand the condition. They can inform how people react in emergencies. Every little mention of diabetes in the media matters, because misinformation can very easily carry over into real life scenarios, and misinformation leads to confusion. Confusion is not only dangerous, but it leads you straight to inaction. Now, as all of this started to become clearer to me, I felt very frustrated, but I did realize that I had an opportunity to share my experience, to share the lessons that I'd learned, and to hopefully learn more about what needs to be done in order to protect the dreams of my fellow type 1s. So after 5 years of living with type 1, I'll still admit that I knew very little about it. All I knew was that I wanted to help. So I started writing a book about my journey in hopes that it would help others out there like me, who have dreams, who have big dreams, but are suddenly wondering if those dreams are still possible and realistic. I wanted to empower type 1s and help them to realize what I realized, which is that they are the complete opposite of the unfortunate stigma often displayed in the media, but that in fact they are totally capable, they are powerful, they are champions. And more than that, I wanted to remind them that they're not alone. So it was through my my research for my book that my eyes really opened up. Now, fighting stigma, denial, and fear in order to live the best life that you can and follow your dreams with type 1 isn't possible without the medicine that we need in order to stay alive. So in order for our dreams to come true, we need to be alive. So it was through T1 International that I learnt the darkest truths about so many people's realities when it comes to accessing these medicines that they need to stay alive. Greed should never determine who has access to insulin and who doesn't, anywhere in the world, plain and simple. That is a fundamental truth, and we must fight for that truth. Now, today, I am so happy to tell you that diabetes is honestly, it's no thing to me. I mean, it's definitely a thing, but it's not the thing. I'm not afraid of it anymore, and I'm definitely not ashamed of it anymore. It's a struggle, but it's a struggle that has made me stronger. And I have so many tools at my disposal to help me deal with it. But I understand that my experience is a luxury and it shouldn't be that way. And I hope that one day soon, very soon, it's not. And I am so grateful and inspired that that hope is very much alive today because of organizations like T1 International and advocates like yourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alex. It looks like we have a few minutes, but I actually have a question for you. How do you think we can go about supporting people who have experienced stigma to kind of overcome this and to advocate for themselves?
Well, I think that it comes down to just spreading, like creating more of a community, which is why I've been so impressed and inspired by what's going on with you guys with T1 International, because I think, you know, while there are so many people in the world with type 1 diabetes, like it's hard to find others out there, you know, experiencing the same condition, and that can feel very isolating. And therefore, when you see these horrible representations in movies and whatever, that sinks in, and you're alone with it. And so I think if there's a way that we can expand the community by sharing our stories and sort of setting the tone back to what it actually is, that's going to help people recover from that stigma and stop it from happening in the future.
Thank you. We have another question from John. He said, how can we get more well-known people to support T1 International instead of like the usual larger organizations? What do you think?
Again, I think it's about getting the word out, which is why it's an honor for me to be here today. You know, it's not like I have the hugest platform, but whatever, you know, I think it's just about spreading the word and making it something that people understand, because people, I mean, I can admit that it's like, you know, I didn't know anything about it, and I wanted to help, but I didn't know anything about the truths of what really goes on with this condition internationally. And so, you know, I mean, it's about organizations like this and about just spreading the word and making it less of a solo mission for people who get hit with this. And suddenly they're like, oh God, it's just me and I don't know how to deal with it. You know, I remember being out there when I first got to LA and just wishing that there was anybody that I could talk to who understood what I was going through, and there wasn't anyone. So I think that we start there. We start by using this, you know, social media and, you know, the wide web of what we have right now to create a community where people can come together and talk freely and share their stories. And I think we can put our heads together and find a way to do that so that it's known and people can access that support.
Thank you so much. And I think what you're saying actually reminds me of something earlier from one of our working groups. And somebody was talking about how when they were first diagnosed, they felt like their diagnosis was like their problem, like they were the issue.
Right.
But after, meeting the community of advocates and like the diabetes community, they realized actually, no, they're not the problem. There's a greater systematic problem, which is making them feel like they are the problem. But yeah, thank you so much, Alex. Thank you so, so much. That was really inspiring. And we're really grateful for you to have shared your story with us. And for joining us in our celebrations today. If anyone wants to learn more about Alex, please visit Instagram.com/Alexandra Park 1. Thank you so much, Alex, for sharing your story and your experience.
Thank you so much, guys. It's a pleasure. Honor to be here.